This week, a special edition of Mags on Media, an extended program, in fact. We're discussing the transition that journalists have to make when turning to long-form writing. What's the process? I wonder how they stay motivated, and mostly, what are the secrets to writing a page-turner? Mandy Wiener, Lukhanyo Kalata and Yan Yan Joubert remain with us on the program. Lukhanyo, let's pick up on a point that Mandy and Yan Yan were making a little earlier then. It's about extending the idea into a longer format piece. I think it's a very clumsy way of putting it, but you know what I'm saying.
As journalists, right, we always we think short term, as Mandy was saying. We think about the soundbite. You think, but in long form, it's about you writing yourself into the story. Right? So from the time that you go and do an interview, for instance, with Jeremy Maggs, you then start writing about the lead up to that interview. It's not just I got in and we sat down and this is what Jeremy Maggs says. But you say, well, you know, I woke up, the sky was like this and I was thinking about that interview the night before I had prepared. So it's about painting a whole scene, which is in journalism we don't really get to do because we just want to be in and out. Which is
a complete, Mandy, change of discipline here. You've got to force yourself to think more colourfully and more laterally.
Certainly. So with daily news reporting, you're after the facts. You've got to get it into a 40-second, sometimes radio report or TV slightly longer. And you don't have that luxury of the detail. Whereas for a book, you do, and you can expand and you can give your analysis and you can write yourself in. And that is certainly a luxury that you don't get with daily news reporting. But then you're also looking for that detail that does illustrate the picture. So you're looking for the nuance and you're looking for the descriptions around the room. And all of that does paint that picture for the reader that you don't necessarily get if you're listening to a radio bulletin.
But Yan Yan Joubert in Cape Town, the caveat to all of that is you've got to make sure that you're not overwriting, over-amplifying and just resorting to waffle.
Absolutely. So the point there is to, A, remember that you have an audience. The second thing, I think, is to write sensorically. What do I see? What do I smell? What do I hear? What do I feel? So that the other person who is reading can put themselves into your shoes and can actually feel what it's like to be at that coalface where the decisions are taken, at that place, that nook and cranny within the Independent Electoral Commission's broadcasting studios that we watch every 2.5 years from the Pretoria Showgrounds, and to say, yes, it's almost as if I was there.
I'm just laughing at that word sensorically, Lukhanyo, because it's the first time it's ever been used on this programme. We shall use it again. We shall take ownership of this word. But Yan Yan makes an important point there, is that it's blending and developing nuance. In your particular case, though, was there room for that approach?
Yes, there was. Yeah. There was, because, I mean, you know, there were so many stories. For instance, my story with my employer and how I was able to bring that to light. You know, for instance, I write about the day that we were fired. You know, I write about how I was called into the meeting, how this guy slid this brown envelope across the table, me picking it up, asking a question, watching how startled the HR manager was at me asking a question.
But it's also your own feeling.
It is my feeling.
That feeling in the pit of your own stomach.
Yes, you know, so it's about trying to capture as much of that as possible and relaying it and putting it on the page and hoping that the reader will be able to engage with it in an emotional way, you know, as Yan Yan said, in a sensorical manner.
We're going to work this word sensorical into this entire thread of the programme today. Mandy Wiener, what was your approach to research? I mean, do you have a big whiteboard? Do you have lots of folders on your...
Sensorical, obviously.
You know, it's a sensorical approach. do you have lots of sort of folders on your laptop? You said a lot of it is in here. What's the specific approach to research?
So I do a lot of interviews. So for me, it's about getting people to talk. It's not necessarily about drilling down into the data or anything like that. So it involves setting up those interviews, and often it's people who've never spoken before. So that's a process in itself. And then it's doing...
Don't go so fast. That's very important.
Yeah.
How do you get reluctant people to talk to you, particularly for something which is going to live beyond, a 60-second news report on a radio station?
So it's persistence and building relationships with people. So over a period of time, it may take me years to convince people to speak to me. But then it also comes with reputation. So if I phone up someone and say, hi, I'm writing a book, they may say, oh, I read the last one, I'll definitely speak to you. But then or not.
Yeah.
And then they've got to trust you with the story. So then you do the interview. It could take hours and hours. And then all of that, I do have lots of different folders. And everything goes into the cloud, into a Dropbox, which is really important because sometimes as journalists, you're not used to dealing with so much information and you lose your laptop and it's gone forever.
It's just like the worst thing that can happen. Jan, pick up on the point that Mandy makes about getting people to talk to you and winning their trust. Was it easier in your case with this particular book?
Well, I mean, I think it must have been tougher for her because she's speaking to some really disconcerting people. But in my case, it's politicians. They're not disconcerting at all. I'm joking. The point is that what she said about reputation is important. I think that also if they know that you are a fair reporter, they will speak to you. It's not about you. It's about them. It's also about giving them a platform. And I think what I found with all the party leaders and the analysts that I spoke to regarding the issues for next year's election, they were happy that they at last had a platform where they could really speak their mind and where they weren't really constrained by time or space. We had a lot of time. I could ask more and more questions to really make them explain themselves as well as they possibly can and demystify the whole process of politics.
So let's talk a little bit now about whether you're wanting to create news out of the book that you're writing. Often these days we live in this generation of social media where we want the soundbite, we want the 140 or whatever it is characters that we need these days. So Lukhanya, as far as you're concerned, did you write the book knowing that there would be an excerpt in a newspaper that is going to create some news, or was that happenstance?
No, I think I knew. I think obviously the topic of my book is something that's very close to me, but it's also something that is quite publicly known in South Africa. And the fact, for instance, that there have been no closure on TRC-related matters and cases that were committed within the 1980s of apartheid death squads and all of those kinds, I knew that, Fort Kalata's son to write a book where I say certain things. I knew it was going to create some news. I didn't expect as much news as what we've received, but I knew it was going to create some news.
All right, I want to pick up on the news angle with Jan and Mandy in just a moment. Mags on Media, a special edition coming up on the programme. More on the science behind writing long form with journalists turned authors Mandy Wiener, Lukhanya Kalata and Jan Joubert.